Hello, welcome to Around the Diocese, your July 13th edition. I'm Father Sight. Let's get started. On this episode, we will feature Mercy in Action, a call to peace and harmony, energizing the energizers and youth. On this week's Mercy in Action, our calendar reminds us to share our faith story with others. But in order to do so, we must have something to share. So we encourage you to keep encountering God's mercy, because the summer is one of those times when some people take a vacation from their vocation, from the same call that all of us share, the universal call to holiness. To be holy does not mean to be perfect, but it does mean to be faithful. Being faithful in knowing, loving, and serving God at all times, most especially at Mass every Sunday. After all, the sacraments are the primary way that we encounter God's mercy, and this encounter is what enables us to extend it to others. So enjoy your vacations, but don't forget to keep living your vocation. Up next, in response to the devastating acts of violence which have taken place in Orlando, St. Paul, Baton Rouge, and Dallas, and even in our own communities, Bishop Cunningham has invited members of our diocese and the local community to join him for a special Mass to promote harmony. The Mass will be celebrated at 5:10 p.m. tonight, Wednesday, July 13, at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception in downtown Syracuse. Catholic Television had a chance to sit down with Bishop Cunningham and discuss his call to peace and harmony.
Well, like all people, I was horrified by the events of the past few weeks. And so much violence has taken place in our world, in our country, and violence in our own community. I think it's time for us to come together and pray. I'm a firm believer that prayer changes things. The Gospels tell us to go to the Lord, to ask for our needs. And we need, in our community, and in our country, and in the world at large, a greater sense of respect for all of human life, for every individual human life. And so many times during the past few weeks, individuals have focused or have carried out acts against certain groups of people. We want that to stop. And we're asking God to help us do what we can in order to have this action, these violent actions, stop in our midst. Well, I think the greatest outcome that I would hope for would be a renewed sense and appreciation on the part of all the people there and all the people in our community for greater respect for human life and human dignity. This affects all of us. It doesn't really matter who we are, whether we're Christian or non-Christian, whether we're Muslim, whether we're a police officer or a member of the gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual community. Whoever we are, we need to be people of peace, to respect each other's dignity, to reverence the gift of life that each one has, and to ask God to strengthen us to protect that life and to be guardians of life. Mass is open to all people. Our cathedral doors are opened. We welcome all people to come and to join us in prayer. We'll be celebrating Mass. We'll invite people to pray with us and to again pray with us for peace in the community, harmony. The Church gathers together in prayer, not only every day, but especially in moments like this, when we need to be united in our approach to the situations in which we find ourselves. There's always hope. And I think Pope Benedict XVI had a famous phrase in which he said, "People who live with hope live their lives differently." I'm hopeful that these random acts of violence committed by individuals will cease, and that we will be able to live as peaceful friends and neighbors. And I hope that the violence that we see in other cities is not duplicated anywhere in our country or in the world.
Even after this special Mass, let us continue to pray with our bishop that the people of our society and culture will return to a respect for all human life. Now, on to evangelization.
This applies to everything in the spiritual life. So,
Parishioners from around the diocese gathered at Christ the King Retreat House for relit training.
listen, if you're afraid of evangelization, nothing is going to take away that fear other than you starting to do it and say, hey, this isn't so bad.
The 3-day seminar focused on learning the skills needed to share the good news with others.
Courage is, the lack of courage, the feeling of fear is probably the number one thing that holding back people who are themselves evangelized, who love the Lord, and they want to evangelize, but there's just something in them that's holding them back. Almost 9 times out of 10, it's that they're afraid. There may be other things going on as well, but they're afraid of being embarrassed, they're afraid that people will laugh at them, they're afraid of being seen as a religious nut, they're afraid that they can't do it effectively. So we have to be able to deal with this fear so they can overcome it and then begin to use the gifts that God has given to them.
We thank all those involved for all of their hard work and dedication to the mission of the Church. You know, this mission is simple and yet profound. It is simply telling others the good news that Christ has died and has risen for us and for our salvation. Now on to Diocesan Social Media Specialist Nicole Osavord, who brings us this week's Media Minute.
Youth from across the Diocese of Syracuse are invited to attend a very special Year of Mercy Holy Hour, recognizing all of our fantastic young people at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. And in today's Media Minute, we're giving you all of the details. Youth are invited to join Most Reverend Bishop Cunningham and spend an hour with the Lord that will include liturgy of the Word, a special homily by Bishop, exposition of the Blessed Sacrament, confession and benediction. The Holy Hour is part of an effort by the Diocesan Year of Mercy Committee and Bishop Cunningham to host regional Holy Hours during the Holy Jubilee year. This special Holy Hour will take place at the Cathedral in Syracuse on July 17th from 2 to 3 p.m. All are welcome to attend as we recognize the many faithful young people across our diocese. For more information, visit seardio.org and click on Year of Mercy.
Thank you, Nicole. And finally, Catherine Long, the editor of the Catholic Sun, will give us a preview of what we can find in the next edition.
Thanks, Father. This week at thecatholicsun.com, you'll find stories about the Mass to Promote Harmony, the upcoming World Youth Day in Poland, and St. Anne's Triduum celebrations around the diocese, plus much more. Be sure to visit thecatholicsun.com every day for the latest local, national, and international Catholic news, and watch your mailbox for the next print edition of the Catholic Sun out July 21st.
Thank you, Catherine. That's all for this episode. Although tragic acts of violence have swept across our nation, there is hope. We leave you with images of youth from around our diocese who traveled with Bob Walters, Diocesan Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministry, to Steubenville, Ohio, this past weekend to encounter Christ during this year's summer conference called I Thirst. We also leave you with some of their thoughts about what, or rather who, they experienced. Until next time, I'm Father Sight, and remember, God is doing great things in each of us and all around our diocese. Take care.